next Field Notes storyteller, Italian-American, Chelsea Gazillo.
The year I was heartbroken and my world was completely ripped out from underneath me, I found myself in Caserta, Italy, sitting in front of 5 baseball-sized mozzarella balls. I'm mildly lactose intolerant, so I thought, how did I get here? And as garlic simmered in olive oil in the background, I was immediately transformed back to my childhood in Western Massachusetts. Every Sunday, my grandparents would invite me and my family and our extended family and friends to Sunday family dinners. My grandfather was Italian-American and my grandmother was a French-Canadian immigrant. Oftentimes, before we would eat, my grandfather would take me and my sister and my cousins on a tour of his backyard garden. And as we would walk around the garden, he would explain to us that one way he, like many immigrant families, would stay connected to a land that was far away was to cultivate culturally appropriate foods from the soils, or the Agawam fine sandy loam soils. For those of you that don't know, those are some of the best soils in the world. And we would see the San Marzano tomatoes on the vine, and the zucchinis popping out of the soil, and eggplant. And he wasn't very good at gardening. In fact, there was often a lot of weeds in the garden beds, and sometimes we would see lettuce that had bolted. He also was not a very good chef, which is why he married my grandmother, who jokingly would say that she swore never to tell the family's pasta sauce recipe as part of her wedding vows. And so she would make copious amounts of food. So much food, in fact, that my uncle once told me that she was making enough to feed the Agawam football team. Because one time the Agawam football team did come to dinner. So she would make a pasta and a salad and many side dishes, and there would always be a roast. And if we were really lucky, she would make a French-Canadian meat pie. And we would gather around the dinner table, and because we're Italian-American, we would speak with our hands. Everyone would talk over one another, and it would be just like complete chaos. So it was during this time that I got to know a lot about my grandparents, the early parts in their marriage. And my grandmother would tell the story of one of the first times that she went to an Italian dinner, very much like this one, at some of my grandfather's extended Italian family members' house. And they brought out so much food. She had one course, and then she had a second course. And after the second course, she said, "I'm sorry, I don't think I can eat any more food, or I'll be sick." And they took that to mean that the food itself had made her sick. And so she would tell the story, and I took it to mean like, oh, if I'm ever in Italy eating food with our Italian family, I better eat everything or I'll be rude. My grandparents, they passed away in 2004, and when they passed away, we stopped gathering in Agawam for family dinners. Well, 14 years later, I found myself completely devastated. A long-term relationship that I had been in was over, and my life plans were changing because I was not going to marry this person, I was not going to have kids with this person. So I did what any geriatric millennial would do, and I went to the bookstore and I bought Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love. I realized that I was not ready for love. Praying's never really been my thing. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I gotta go eat. So I bought a plane ticket to Italy, and I called my dad and I said, "Dad, I'm gonna fly to Italy and I'm gonna eat my heartbreak away." And he said, "Okay, well, while you're there, make sure to look up my second cousin, your second cousin once removed, Nicola. Here's his Facebook information. He lives in Caserta." And I said, "Okay, well, I'll book an Airbnb in Caserta and I will go see Nicola for a cup of coffee or maybe lunch." And my dad said, "All right, well, I think Nicola will take care of you, but you do you." And so I took the flight. I went to Italy. I arrived, and I landed in Napoli, and I ate pizza and drank lots of Montepulciano and ate tiramisu and stayed in agriturismos and went on a tour of a limoncello farm, or a farm that makes limoncello. And the night before my Airbnb was booked in Caserta, I Facebooked Nicola. And I said, "Hi, Nicola, I'm Joe Gazillo's daughter. I'm going to be in Caserta tomorrow. Maybe you have time to grab a cup of coffee or to have lunch." And Nicola said, "You're Joe Gazillo's daughter and you're going to just come to Caserta for a cup of coffee? Like, no, you're going to stay with me. I will tell my son that he has to sleep on the couch and you can sleep in his twin bed." And I'm like, this guy is a stranger and I've seen a lot of true crime. Like, is this really what I want to be doing? So I said, all right, well, I guess I'll do this. He's family. I take the train to Caserta, and I arrive, and Nicola picks me up at the train station, and we go on a tour of this palace that was in the city that was built to compete with Versailles. We go see the house that my great-grandmother was born in, and we end up at his house, sitting at his dining room table, attempting to figure out how we're both related through Google Translate. So after that happens, he says, "Okay, well, my wife will be home soon. It's getting late. Are you ready to eat dinner?" And I say, "Sure." And he says, "Have you ever had water buffalo milk mozzarella?" And I say, "Water buffalo milk mozzarella, what's that? Like, we have burrata balls in the US. This is like what you use in a caprese?" And he says, "Well, yeah, it's a local delicacy. I think you'll like it. It's delicious." And so his wife gets home, and she puts an eggplant parmesan into the oven, and there's tiramisu on the counter, and she pulls out this huge bag of water buffalo milk mozzarella and cuts it open and slides 5 balls in a bowl in front of me and says, "This is the first course." And so I immediately think that I'm mildly lactose intolerant, and this is the moment that my grandmother talked about, and shit, I got to eat all these mozzarella balls. And then I look around, and I also think, okay, well, in this moment that my life plans had changed and my travel plans have changed, and here I am with strangers that are my family, and I'm here because of family, and I know that I'm going to be okay, and this feels like home. Thank you.
CISA is so honored to bring you these stories about local food and our culture. If you'd like to learn more about CISA's work and our programs, please go to buylocalfood.org. Thank you.